The rain hammered against my windshield as I navigated the winding forest road home from work. Thunder cracked overhead, and lightning illuminated the dense trees in violent flashes. I should have stayed at the office, but something, instinct maybe, pushed me forward through the storm. That's when I saw it. A twisted heap of metal off the shoulder, smoke rising despite the downpour. My headlights caught the wreckage of what looked like a small aircraft, barely larger than a glider, tangled in the underbrush. I pulled over without thinking, my heart pounding. No emergency vehicles yet. I was alone. As I approached, I heard it, a soft whimpering, almost like a wounded animal. I grabbed my flashlight and pushed through the wet branches. The cockpit was crushed, but through the shattered canopy, I saw her. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks. A young woman, maybe mid-20s, with delicate features and copper-red hair plastered to her face. But then I saw them, the ears, tufted and pointed, twitching atop her head. And behind her, a bushy tail, matted with blood. "Jesus," I breathed. Her amber eyes snapped to mine, wide with terror and pain. She tried to move, but her leg was pinned beneath twisted metal. Blood stained her torn clothing, some kind of form-fitting suit I didn't recognize. "Hold on," I said, though I had no idea if she understood English. "I'm getting you out." I yanked at the metal with everything I had, ignoring the sharp edges cutting into my palms. The storm raged around us, and I knew if I didn't get her out soon, hypothermia would finish what the crash started. Finally, the metal gave way. She cried out as I carefully lifted her from the wreckage. She was lighter than I expected, almost impossibly so. Her arms wrapped around my neck instinctively, her face pressing against my chest. Even through the rain, I could feel her trembling. I carried her to my car and laid her across the back seat, grabbing the emergency blanket from my trunk. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes drifting closed. "Stay with me," I urged, starting the engine and cranking the heat. The nearest hospital was 40 minutes away, but I had a cabin just 10 minutes up the road, my weekend retreat. It would have to do. As I drove, I kept glancing back at her. Those ears, that tail, they were real, moving slightly with each breath. My rational mind screamed that this was impossible, but the evidence was right there in my back seat. When I reached the cabin, I carried her inside and laid her on my bed. Her eyes fluttered open as I began carefully examining her injuries. The gash on her leg was deep but manageable. Her ribs might be bruised. But what worried me most was the way she looked at me, with an intensity that made my breath catch. I cleaned and bandaged her wounds as gently as I could. She flinched but never pulled away, those amber eyes never leaving my face. When I finished, I expected her to rest, to sleep. Instead, she reached up and touched my cheek with trembling fingers. Her lips moved, forming words in a language I didn't understand. But the meaning in her eyes was clear: gratitude and something else, something that made my pulse quicken. I woke to find her sitting at the foot of my bed, watching me. Dawn light filtered through the curtains, casting her in shades of gold. Her injuries looked better, impossibly better, for just one night. The gash on her leg had already begun to close. "How are you feeling?" I asked, sitting up slowly. She tilted her head, those fox ears swiveling toward my voice. Then she smiled, a small, uncertain thing that transformed her face. She pointed at herself, then at me, then pressed her hand over her heart. "I don't understand," I admitted. She slid closer on the bed, moving with a grace that seemed almost supernatural. Her tail swished behind her, and I found myself mesmerized by the movement. She took my hand and placed it over her heart. I could feel it beating, quick and strong. Then she placed her other hand over mine. The moment our skin touched, something shifted. A warmth spread through my chest, like drinking hot tea on a cold day. Images flashed through my mind: a forest under moonlight, creatures with glowing eyes, and her, flying through the sky in that strange aircraft, pursued by something dark. I gasped and pulled back. What was that? She spoke then, her voice like wind chimes. The words were foreign, but somehow I understood the emotion behind them. Bound, protected, together. Over the next few days, she refused to leave the cabin, refused to leave my side, really. She followed me from room to room, always staying within reach. At night, I'd wake to find her curled up on the floor beside my bed, her tail wrapped around herself like a blanket. You can sleep on the couch, I'd tell her, or even in the bed. I don't mind taking the floor. But she'd just shake her head and settle back down, those amber eyes watching me until I fell asleep. I called in sick to work, unable to explain my situation. How could I? Sorry, boss, I rescued a fox girl from a crash and now she won't leave. Right. On the third day, I was cooking dinner when she appeared behind me, so close I could feel her warmth. I turned, and suddenly we were inches apart. Her eyes searched mine, and I saw something in them that made my mouth go dry. Slowly, deliberately, she reached up and touched my face again. This time, she leaned in, her lips brushing against my jaw. Not quite a kiss, but something more intimate, a claiming. "Why won't you leave?" I whispered, my hands finding her waist without conscious thought. She pressed closer, her body fitting against mine perfectly. Her ears flattened slightly, and she made a soft sound, almost a purr. Then she took my hand and placed it over her heart again, repeating the gesture from before. This time, the images were clearer. I saw myself pulling her from the wreckage, saw the moment through her eyes, and I felt what she felt, the snap of connection, the binding of fate. In her world, saving a life created a debt. But more than that, it created a bond that transcended words. "You're bound to me," I breathed, understanding finally dawning. She nodded, then did something unexpected. She guided my hand from her heart down, slowly, deliberately, until it rested on her hip. Her meaning was clear, and it made heat pool in my belly. "We should take this slow," I said, even as every fiber of my being screamed to pull her closer. But she shook her head, her tail wrapping around my leg. She pointed to her ears, then to the windows, indicating the world outside. Then she pointed to us, together, and shook her head firmly. Not yet, I understood. The world isn't ready to know about us. That night, she climbed into bed beside me for the first time. She curled against my chest, her tail draped over my legs, her breath warm against my neck, and for the first time since the crash, I slept deeply, protected by a guardian I never knew I needed. The days blurred into a week, and I fell into a strange, beautiful rhythm with her. I started calling her Kira. It just felt right when I looked at her. She seemed to accept the name, her ears perking up whenever I said it. She was learning English faster than seemed possible. Simple words at first: yes, no, hungry, thank you. But each day brought more, and I suspected there was magic involved in how quickly she absorbed the language. I, in turn, was learning her language, not through words, but through touch and gesture. I learned that when her ears flattened, she was content. When they stood straight up, she was alert, protective. Her tail betrayed her emotions even more, swishing when excited, puffed when alarmed, wrapped around me when she felt possessive. And she was possessive. When I needed to go into town for supplies, she became agitated, pacing the cabin until I returned. Once, a neighbor stopped by unannounced, Mrs. Chen from down the road, bringing homemade jam. Kira appeared from the bedroom, placed herself between us, and gave the elderly woman a look so fierce that Mrs. Chen made her excuses and left within minutes. "You can't do that," I told her after, trying to sound stern. She was just being neighborly. Kira crossed her arms, her tail lashing behind her. "Mine," she said clearly, one of her new words. "You, mine." The possessiveness should have bothered me. Instead, it sent a thrill through my body that I tried to ignore. That evening, as we sat together on the couch, her head in my lap while I absently stroked her hair, she spoke more than she ever had. In my world, she began slowly, carefully forming the English words, when life is saved, souls connect. You carry piece of me. I carry piece of you. Forever. Forever? I repeated, my hand stilling in her hair. She sat up, turning to face me. Her expression was serious, almost sad. I did not choose this. You did not choose. But now, we are one. Where you go, I go. What hurts you, hurts me. Is that why you won't leave? Cannot leave, she corrected. Bond is too strong. Being apart. She pressed a hand to her chest, her face contorting with remembered pain. Like dying. The weight of what she was saying settled over me. I had saved her life, and in doing so, I had bound her to me, maybe forever. It should have felt like a burden. Instead, it felt like destiny. Kira, I said softly, cupping her face, I don't want you to leave. Her eyes widened, then glistened with moisture. She surged forward, kissing me with a desperation that stole my breath. Her lips were soft but insistent, her hands gripping my shirt as if I might disappear. I kissed her back, pulling her into my lap. She straddled me, her tail wrapping around my waist, and I could feel her heart racing against my chest. The kiss deepened, her tongue tentatively touching mine, learning my taste as she had learned my language. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against mine. Mine, she whispered again, but this time it sounded like a question. Yours, I confirmed, and felt the bond between us pulse with warmth. That night, things changed between us. She undressed slowly, letting me see all of her, the soft fur that covered certain areas, the way her tail connected to her spine, the delicate patterns of markings on her skin that glowed faintly in the darkness. I traced those markings with my fingers, memorizing every line and curve. She shivered under my touch, making small sounds that drove me crazy. When I kissed the base of her ear, she gasped and arched against me. Sensitive? I murmured against her skin. Yes, she breathed. Everything. More sensitive than you. Touch me. Everywhere. I did. I explored every inch of her, learning what made her purr, what made her gasp, what made her claws, yes, she had retractable claws, dig into my shoulders. She was responsive beyond anything I'd experienced, her body so attuned to mine that I could feel what pleased her through our bond. When we finally came together, it was like the world shifted. The bond flared bright and hot between us, and I could feel her pleasure as my own, creating a feedback loop that left us both gasping and trembling. Afterward, as she lay draped across my chest, her purring vibrating through my entire body, she whispered, "Now, truly bound, forever." And I knew she was right. The second week brought new complications. I woke one morning to find Kira at the window, her body tense, ears flat against her head, not in contentment but in warning. "What is it?" I asked, joining her. She pointed to the tree line. At first, I saw nothing. Then, movement. A shadow that didn't quite match the pattern of the forest. It shifted, and for just a moment, I saw the outline of something large and distinctly not human. "Your people?" I asked. She shook her head, her tail puffed to twice its normal size. "Hunters," she said, and the fear in her voice chilled me. "They track me. They want—" She struggled for the words. "They want to break bond. Take me back." "Why? What did you do?" "Ran away," she admitted quietly. "Was supposed to mate with their chosen one. I refused. Took Skycraft. They followed." She turned to me, her eyes desperate. "If they find me with you, they will kill you. Bond makes you threat." My mind raced. We could call the police. "No," She grabbed my arms. Your law cannot stop them. They are not bound by human rules. We must hide. Or, she hesitated, or we fight. Fight? Kira, I'm just a guy. I work in insurance. I don't know how to fight supernatural hunters. She smiled, and for the first time, I saw her predatory side, the fox beneath the girl. You have me. Bond makes you stronger now. You feel it, yes? Feel the changes? Now that she mentioned it, I had noticed things. My senses were sharper. I could hear sounds I shouldn't be able to hear, smell things on the wind. My reflexes had improved during our time together. The bond was changing me, making me more like her. How long do we have? I asked. Days, maybe less. They move slowly, carefully, but they are coming. I made a decision then. Then we prepare. Over the next 2 days, Kira taught me about her world. She explained that her people, the Kitsune, were an ancient race that lived in the spaces between human civilization. They had magic, yes, but they were also bound by strict laws and traditions. Her refusal to accept an arranged mating was seen as a grave insult. The one they chose for me, she said with disgust, was cruel, powerful, but cruel. He saw me as property, trophy. She looked at me with such tenderness that it made my chest ache. Not like you. You see me, real me. We reinforced the cabin as best we could. Kira used what she called ward magic, marking the doors and windows with symbols that glowed faintly under moonlight. I felt foolish with my baseball bat and kitchen knife, but she insisted that intent mattered more than the weapon. On the third night, they came. I woke to Kira's growl, a sound I'd never heard from her before. It was feral, protective, and it made every hair on my body stand up. She was crouched at the foot of the bed, her body between me and the window where a shadow loomed. The glass shattered. A figure poured through, tall, masculine, with the same fox features as Kira, but darker, more aggressive. His eyes glowed red in the darkness. "Found you, little fox," he said in English, his accent thick. "And you've been playing with humans. How disappointing." "Leave, Damon," Kira snarled. "I am claimed. The bond is complete." Damon laughed, a cruel sound. Bond to a human? Pathetic. I'll kill him, and you'll be free to fulfill your duty. He lunged, impossibly fast. But Kira was faster. She met him mid-air, her claws extended, and they crashed into the far wall with enough force to crack the plaster. I grabbed the bat and swung at another figure coming through the window. The impact jarred my arms, but I felt that strange strength Kira had mentioned. The second hunter stumbled back. The cabin erupted into chaos. There were 3 of them, Damon and 2 others. Kira fought with a ferocity that was both beautiful and terrifying. She was protecting me, I realized, fighting for our bond, for us. I did my best to help, but I was clearly outmatched. One of the hunters got past Kira's guard and came at me. His claws raked across my chest and pain exploded through me. Kira screamed, a sound of pure rage and agony. Through our bond, she had felt my pain as her own. She turned on my attacker with such violence that even Damon hesitated. "Enough!" he shouted. "We leave now. This isn't over, Kira. The council will come for you both." As quickly as they'd arrived, they vanished into the night. Kira was at my side instantly, her hands trembling as she examined my wounds. Tears streamed down her face. "I'm okay," I assured her, though blood soaked my shirt. "I'm okay." "No," she sobbed. "This is my fault. I should have run further, should have protected you better." I pulled her close despite the pain. "We protected each other. We're a team now, remember?" She kissed me then, desperate, grateful, claiming, and I kissed her back, tasting salt from her tears and something wild and fierce that was purely her. "We cannot stay here," she whispered against my lips. "They will come back. Bring more." Then we run, I said. Together. We left everything behind. Within an hour, we were on the road heading north toward Canada. Kira said there were places, sanctuary towns where humans and kitsune coexisted in secret. Places where our bond would be understood, maybe even protected. The drive took 3 days. We stayed in cheap motels, always moving, always watching. Kira wore a baseball cap to hide her ears and kept her tail wrapped around her waist under loose clothing. To anyone who saw us, we were just another couple on a road trip. But in our rooms at night, we were so much more. The bond had grown stronger since the attack. I could feel her emotions as clearly as my own now. Her fear for our safety, her guilt over endangering me, but also her fierce love and devotion. And she could feel mine, my determination to protect her, my growing need for her presence, my complete acceptance of this strange new life. "Do you regret it?" she asked one night as we lay tangled together. "Saving me? Binding yourself to this life?" I traced the markings on her skin, watching them glow brighter under my touch. "No, never. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Kira. I was just existing before, going through the motions, but you made me feel alive." She purred and nuzzled into my neck. "I love you," she said clearly. She'd been practicing those words, wanting to get them exactly right. "I love you too," I replied, and felt the bond pulse with warmth and light. On the 4th day, we crossed into British Columbia and followed Kira's directions to a small town called Moonshadow. It looked like any other rural Canadian town, quaint Main Street, friendly locals, mountains in the distance. But as we drove through, I started noticing details. A woman with feline features serving coffee at a diner. A man with feathers in his hair talking to a completely human-looking companion. A child with scales on his arms playing in a park. "This is it," Kira breathed. "Safe place. Community of bonded pairs and free folk." We found a small cottage for rent on the edge of town. It needed work, but it was ours. Our first real home together. That night, as we christened every room of our new house, Kira finally explained everything. The kitsune had once lived alongside humans openly, but centuries ago they'd retreated into hiding. Most kept to the old ways, arranged matings, strict hierarchy, isolation from humans. But some, like those in Moonshadow, believed in a different path. They believed that bonds formed from genuine connection, like ours, were stronger and more sacred than any arranged union. "The council will not find us here easily," she explained as we lay in our new bed, moonlight streaming through the window. "And if they do, this community will stand with us. But—" she hesitated. "But what?" "There is a way to make bond permanent, unbreakable. It is ceremony, magic ritual. If we do this, I can never be taken from you. We become one soul in 2 bodies." My heart pounded. "And if we don't?" "Then bond can be broken. By force, by death, by powerful magic." She looked at me with such vulnerability. "I want permanent, want to be yours forever. But you must want too, must choose freely." I didn't need to think about it. I'd made my choice the moment I pulled her from that wreckage, even if I hadn't known it then. "When?" I asked simply. Her face lit up with joy. "Tomorrow, under full moon. Town elder performs ceremony. Then, nothing can separate us. Ever." The next evening, under a sky full of stars and a moon so bright it seemed to pulse with power, we stood in a clearing surrounded by the community of Moonshadow. Humans and kitsune and others I couldn't identify all gathered to witness our bonding. The elder, an ancient woman with 9 tails instead of 1, spoke in a language that resonated in my bones. Kira and I stood facing each other, hands clasped, as magic swirled around us. When it was time, we spoke our vows, not the traditional words, but our own. I am yours, I said. In this life and whatever comes after, I choose you, Kira, always. I am yours, she replied, tears streaming down her face. You saved me. You chose me. You loved me when I was lost. I am yours, forever. The magic crested, and I felt it. The bond snapping into place permanently. It was like our souls merged and separated again, but now they were irrevocably linked. I could feel her heartbeat as my own. Her breath was my breath. Her joy was my joy. When we kissed, the clearing erupted in cheers and howls and sounds I'd never heard before, but I barely noticed. All I could feel was her, all around me, inside me, part of me. That night, in our cottage, we celebrated our new bond properly. She was even more sensitive now, responding to my touch before I even made contact, as if she could feel my intention through our connection. We moved together as one being, pleasure-building and cresting in waves that left us both gasping and trembling. Afterward, as she lay draped across my chest, her purring like a constant lullaby, she spoke for the first time about the future. "Will you regret it someday?" she asked quietly. "Being tied to me, to this hidden world?" I stroked her hair, her ears, marveling at how perfectly she fit against me. The world can know or not know. It doesn't matter. You're my world now, Kira. You and this life we're building. That's all I need. She tilted her head up to look at me, her amber eyes glowing softly in the darkness. "I am yours now, and we are not yet ready for the world to know," she said, echoing words she'd spoken weeks ago. "But someday, maybe, someday when the world is ready, they will see how beautiful it is when two souls choose each other." "Maybe," I agreed, pulling her closer. "But until then, this is enough. You are enough. More than enough." She purred louder and nuzzled into my chest. Through our bond, I felt her contentment, her love, her absolute certainty that we had made the right choice. I had saved her from a crash that stormy night. But the truth was, she had saved me too. From a life half-lived, from settling for ordinary, from never knowing what it felt like to be truly, completely connected to another soul. Outside our window, the moon continued its journey across the sky. Inside, wrapped in each other's arms, we slept deeply, two souls bound by fate, by choice, by love. And somewhere in the forest, the wind carried our secret, keeping it safe until the world was ready to understand what we had always known, that some bonds transcend species, logic, and expectation. Some bonds are simply meant to be,